Hit this button. I keep forgetting to fix it when I have an opportunity.
Got it.
That's the answer I'm going to give as I have us go live, is I keep forgetting to fix that when I have the opportunity. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. I am very forgetful, and I remember things when I don't have time, and then I forget them when I do have time. That's my life.
That's everyone.
It's like, oh, I would have had time to do that. I forgot. Oh, I don't have time to do that. I'm remembering. Fortunately, I'm remembering to be here today. We are, I mean, it's a little late, but I had to fucking get that docket together, which was... I cut that down. Last week and this week all had a lot of stuff to talk about, and I cut that down a lot, and it's still a huge docket. So that's probably what we're going to do. Probably not going to have a deeper discussion today, but anyway, yeah. I guess the basic thing is... You shouldn't be. Try talking again.
This is very quiet. Never mind.
Let me see. I might have the volume down. Oh, wait. I remember what I did. I have to switch something here. I had the volume down the other day on Discord because there were some very loud people. Try now.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be back to more of
Test.
a normal level. There you go. That sounds better.
Okay, that's yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I always do a sound check for you.
I'd forgotten I had done that because you know it's just
Why
like
I do a sound check for you.
it was good. I had you unmuted, but like I forgot I had put that down because it's just like for some whatever reason someone on Discord was louder than everybody else, and so I turned it down for everybody. But welcome, Discussing Tabletop. I think I said that. I might not have. Who knows? We're talking tabletop news of the week. We're discussing it. We're taking all these interesting topics. We're telling you some places that you can go check it out yourself if you want to read up on it more. And then we're using our expertise as people in the tabletop space to discuss it for a little while and give you some opinions on and information. You know, it's a discussion show. Enjoy it. Hopefully, happy to hear it. And thank you for joining me today, Worm.
No problem.
Normally I would probably banter a little bit more and like say like, oh, we got a deeper discussion topic. I don't know if we get a deeper discussion. I said that, but like there's a crap ton of stuff to talk about. So maybe we should just get started with that. That's probably a good idea. I have to remember to make sure this is not full screened or it blocks Discord. So I guess we'll start with the like simple news. Like, this is one that I wanted to talk about last week. I thought was interesting is we're probably not going to get any more player's handbook tests for the new D&D 1 or D&D 2024 or whatever the hell they call it. But we do have what their takeaway from the last playtest's survey is. And their discussions on their revisal of the Barbarian, Druid, and Monk, healing spells, summoning spells, all that kind of stuff. So we have an idea of post that playtest, the direction that Wizards is going to plan for that stuff they're working on. Again, we are probably not going to see another one of these before it's published. But you know, it's interesting to say that, you know, it seems as though like people were happy with, like, I know what they were doing with the Monk. They wanted a satisfaction of 70% or 70s or higher on the survey for thing. So,
There's no pleasing everyone. There are people who are like, it's not the exact same as it was. You're terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you definitely have to shoot for something that, like, I don't know, but, like, 70% feels low. But then again, we're in a culture where, you know,
yeah, it's again
4.5 stars or higher.
Again,
no,
like,
it makes sense for like an RPG community when you're trying to please everyone. You can't please everyone is more what I should say.
Yeah, and again, like I'm assuming, you know, when you're looking at a lot of surveys, you're looking for the ones that actually like gave decent feedback and stuff and talked about the changes. Which, you know, if I had planned to actually play test it, that's what I would have done. It's the reasonable thing to do when you're using that material and you want to give your opinion about it. Actually give your opinion. The thing that I will always say is, at the very least, the Wizards are, like, development group does listen to what people say. You know, I've got my complaints about Wizards of the Coast's management, but the people that make the games actually listen and, you know, do their best to actually make the games.
Yeah, the developing team is fine. The, like...
Management and a little bit of the marketing, too, I don't like sometimes.
I was gonna say marketing. I was gonna say management. The higher-ups probably, the lower-downs, who knows. The higher-ups...
Middle management maybe is okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's more upper management that's just all like, let's do this dumb thing, and everyone's like, ugh.
Yeah. So I was gonna add, well, I'll add this in at this point in time, but I was gonna do this as part of another one. There was an article that was quoting Jeremy Crawford from, I think, some kind of interview, that he knows that we're not going to get... The new stuff is probably not going to be at very least until later in the year. Because Jeremy's quote was saying we might still be working on the books in May. And this is from Dicebreakers. They had an article about it. They were talking about it. Really, I was keeping the article because there's something else we're going to talk about in a second. That was a kind of interesting rumor mill of stuff related to a lot of things. Which we should address. But, yeah.
So, they're planning to do the Player's Handbook in time for this year.
Yeah.
Do you know if they're going to be doing the Monster Manual and D&G as well this year?
That's a good question. I don't know if they're going to try to release all three at once or sparse them out. Now, like... Paizo's sparsed them out for their revised stuff. They gave us Players Core 1 and Game Masters Core, and they're giving us Monster Core coming up soon, and then Players Core 2 coming up after that, which she'll round it out, and they are spreading that out a little bit. I don't know if... I can't recall or remember seeing what they've said.
Yeah, the reason I brought it up is because at the end of this article it says, like, as we continue to refine elements of the Player's Handbook, we're also doing tons of internal playtesting on revised monsters that will be in the Monster Manual. But he didn't say that it would, like, come out at the same time, so that's why I was wondering. Like, they do kind of mention they're working on that, too. It makes it sound like they are, but I don't know.
I'll give the Dicebreakers because, again, it referenced something that we'll talk about for the next topic too, but it also does mention, you know, here, so I'll link that one also. Yeah, I'd be interesting to know. It'd be interesting to know whether or not this will be a spread out thing, or they're going to, like, focus on the Player's Handbook and then give us, like, maybe like a month or two, and then give Monster, and then maybe a month or two, and then Dungeon Masters, or reverse those two or something else. Because they're doing a lot in these. And again, I think that's the one thing that, like, I've said my piece about the amount they're doing makes me feel like a different edition, but we'll wait and see what it is before making decisions. You know, at this point in time, with everything we've seen, I want to wait and see. So, it's nice that they have done these 8 playtests. They've given us a good idea of a lot of the changes they're having and kind of the directions they're taking, which has been honestly positive. I think that's the one thing I can say about a lot of the directions they're taking on the mechanical side. I can't argue with that they've been trying to make a positive direction for it all. They've done some things that were experimental, which they've seemingly walked back here and there because, like, they wanted to, you know... There are certain things they wanted to bring in, but just don't work with the 5e's base outline of stuff. Because, again, we're still working on the original base outline of 5e. You know, we're not taking huge steps away from it. Which is both good and bad. So, honestly speaking, you know, that's why... This will hopefully keep things going, but definitely I think they will have to do a 6e sometime. I mean, like, I'm sorry, the mechanics... will age more and more, you know, and the problems that are the underlying problems with the simplicity of the 5e system, which is, again, great for pick up and play, but not great for certain aspects of the entire system, which could be refined. It would be nice if they would actually, like, address these. Anyway. We should talk about the other... I guess the kind of weird elephant in the room that I guess the rumors kind of died, but not quite also. So, the secondary article that I link talks about it at the end of the article, but there's also this one here, which I think Dicebreakers, of the articles I've seen on it, did the best job talking about it. And there was a couple of other people on YouTube and stuff which really addressed this. And it's the fact is... Wizards has been talking with Tencent. Tencent does video games. Tencent also buys up a lot of crap. So, there was this rumor. The rumor of Tencent buying up the, I guess, D&D IP. Wizards has actually denied this. And the thing is, Wizards denied it fast. Wizards is really bad at denying things. A lot of times we saw the debacle with the OGL and stuff like that, where they were like, this is not something going on, when it was totally something going on, or like ignoring statements for like weeks. This was like, they made a statement about it very quickly. So, their statement is, we're working with them to do more video games. We liked Baldur's Gate 3. We want to do more video games. They're a company which does video games. I think technically one of their subsidiaries or something that they own does video games or something like that. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the corporate thing of like who does what kind of shit like that, but the entire thing is, it's fine if Wizards goes to more people to have more people do more D&D games if we get a variety of interesting ones. We don't just need Baldur's Gate 3s. I think honestly speaking, as much as I complain about the Forgotten Realms setting, I think the Forgotten Realms setting is still pretty good. You know, and as a world setting, has openings for other types of games and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I think it's one of the tamest settings. I would love for them to expand beyond the Sword Coast. I actually really like how Pathfinder is really starting to expand beyond the what is that? What is the Galarian main area called?
The Inner Sea.
Yeah, the Inner Sea. I like how they're kind of expanding. Like, you're getting some other stuff
here
and there now.
Yeah,
I would love like a lot more official and not like, because I think most of the stuff they have right now for Beyond Sword Coast is like just, you know, books from like 3 versions ago. You know,
there's a lot of stuff for other areas of even just Faerun itself, because it's Toral's the entire planet. Just like Galar, like
yes.
if we're talking about the comparison, it's Avastian to the sort to Faerun. You know, Faerun is the continent. Avastian is the main continent of Pathfinder on the planet of Galarian. We do take in stuff from a couple of the other continents and stuff like that, just as the same.
I thought Faerun was the planet and Toriel was the multiverse.
No, well, Toril is technically also their sphere, but Toril's the planet. Yeah.
Okay, Toril is the planet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I misunderstood that then. Okay.
Yeah. It's easy to misunderstand. They don't ever talk about
it as the world of Faerun.
Oh, they do.
So that's, you see where I misunderstood that?
They do that because they ignore everything outside their pseudo-European stuff as of lately. Toril is the entire planet. Yeah. But...
yeah, I mean, I feel like it is to some degree easier to make like a really interconnected storyline of a certain area, but I'd still love. But you can do that without a lot of extra difficulty over a large area. You just have to put in the work to make it, to expand the cultures and stuff. But I think a whole and that's what Pathfinder's doing, because I feel like a lot of their early stuff was all in Avastian or the Inner Sea.
Yeah, it really was.
It was like, mostly Breeze game. But now they're doing like TMZ. I know there's something about. Have they done one for what's the America?
I can give you that information in a second. They have visited there. It's why
I know they have.
Well, like they're
the map recently.
One of the major nations does have some information about it. It was in one of the adventure paths on their version of America. I need the Galarian world map. Sorry.
Anyway, sorry, I got on a tangent a little.
No, that's fine. It's a good question. Because Pathfinder, if we talk about that and its focus, it has focused, as you were very correct, it has focused on a lot of basically Evastian, a little bit of Northern Grund, which is across the sea from the Inner Sea, which would be like your North Africa, and the very edge of Casmaran. TNZ it kind of connected up with one nation, and Arcadia. There's one nation, Arcadia, they've talked. They've talked about nothing of Sussran. In Grund, we finally got Central Grund when they gave us the Mwangi Expanse book, so we don't know a lot about Southern Grund. I can tell you what's going on in Casmaran on a very general area, because there is a large empire in that territory that controls a lot of it, but other than the existence of that empire and the name of its capital, I can't really tell you jack diddly about Casmaran. That's why I'm like so glad about the TNZ book, and I would like to see like Southern Grund, Casmaran, Sussran, and Arcadia get
and
stuff.
I think they'll get there. I think they're going to do that. See, I think the reason they're definitely doing a TNZ book is because they've now had two adventure paths set in TNZ.
True.
So they want to expand the actual like areas for people who are doing this.
Yeah, I mean, like, because like the Arcadian one, it's one country you visit in one of the books, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot in the Arcadia, and the Southern Grund, there's never been an adventure there. I think Casmaran, it's been mentioned, but never been an adventure there as of yet, you know.
Yeah, and I think they'll get there. I think it'll be, alright, yeah. And obviously, it will still not be super, like, I think even the TNZ book will not be super specific, you know, it'll just list the nations, the capitals, their kind of stuff, some stuff about them. You know, it won't be, you know, I mean, they have a whole book dedicated to the city of Corvosa.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I think it'll be enough that you could actually use those countries a lot more. Like, I think it's like Minkai. Minkai has enough information I could get by on using that as a setting. You know, as a person that's very good and creative, you know, and it's only been in like 1.5 adventure books in an adventure path, you know, but there's an entire thing of like going over there and installing the correct queen there, you know, which was really cool adventure path, but that entire thing allowed that country to develop, you know, so I can see the book giving enough information on a lot of these other nations to at least use them, you know. It's the same thing that, like, there actually is a lot of information on Karator on Faerun. That's really the only place. And I think Zakara, they're, like, more deserty area, too. Like, those nations are developed. Like, the Oriental Adventures book was supposed to be set... no, there's the Karator book. The Oriental Adventures just introduced stuff that was used in that from 3rd edition. Which is an incorrect name. Don't bother. It's 3rd edition. We're still not there. Don't yell at me for Oriental Adventures. It's what it's what it's goddamn called. It's what the book's name was.
Third edition of D&D?
It was 3rd edition D&D. Gave us Oriental Adventures and a book that was all about Karator. That was the last time we visited those areas. We haven't visited like many of the other continents. We haven't visited Zakara. We know stuff about it. I think in 2nd edition we visited. Mostica has been mentioned. Like Os. The amount of information on Os is non-existent, you know?
Oh yeah, no, that one's pretty sparse. I've looked at that one.
So it's basically like 3 of the continents have been explored in all of Toro. Which is just kind of such a strange thing. You know, they have this entire globe, but they're keeping to their very European kind of centric stuff. Again, so yeah, more world to explore, more types of adventures, and the thing is, it is a live world, so you could come up with different forms of adventures, you know. You could have your more action-oriented games that would work. They don't have to be Dritzed. You can make someone else up, you know. It's weird, like, that's why I didn't want the Dritz game to fail, that one that was like the, like, very Diablo-style one. It was just bad. I think that's the thing, is it just wasn't good. Maybe it was okay. You know, maybe bad's not maybe okay at most. it didn't blow people out of the water. It's not a Baldur's Gate 3. It's not even an older Baldur's Gate. And I'm going to say, there's a lot of older, styles of role-playing games or different types of them for D&D that exist out there. And many of them are great, even though they're old. So, again, if Tencent makes something interesting, great if they have that IP. But that's kind of where we're kind of at with it, it sounds like. They've worked... Wizards... Go ahead.
Sorry, I'll let you go first.
I was going to say, Wizards has worked with Tencent in the past for things. Like, they did the version of Magic the Gathering Arena for Chinese markets.
Yeah. Anyway, do you know how much oversight they had for Olirant? I feel like they didn't give them a lot of oversight. They just kind of were like, do what you want. Make it good.
I don't think they had as much confidence. Maybe that's what it is. It's this weird spot where I think, as the game developed, maybe they got more oversight because...
I know they started to be all like, are you sure you should be doing that, kind of when certain things came out?
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, yeah, we're going to do that. And they're like, okay, we'll trust you.
I don't know. I would have to say you'd have to probably talk with people at Larian about it all to really get that...
Yeah. I mean, that's something I'd have to look into.
Yeah, definitely. There might be interviews about it. So yeah, there's the thing that, like... The thing about it that you have to think about, too, is... Hasbro loses a lot of money. And there are two things that earn money. First off, Magic the Gathering. Second off, D&D. Yeah. Even with everything last year, it still was profitable.
Mm-hmm.
So, why would the company, when it's having problems everywhere else, sell off one of its IPs?
Mm-hmm. Oh man, this one goose that's laying golden eggs, and the rest of our goose are laying rotten eggs. Man, I think we should sell our golden goose.
And yes, like, there's a lot to go over with that, with, Hasbro laying off people. But see, the thing is, as terrible as it sounds, just to give you an idea, you know what they did instead of thinking about selling stuff? They laid off people. That's an awful thing. It really is. But that was their first mindset, rather than go to, let's sell some of our stuff. Because if you sell it, you can't do anything with it at all. I think that's the kind of mindset about it. You can certainly lend out IP for people to use, or what's what I'm trying to say for the when people have rights to use the stuff in something when they buy those rights or something. Oh my god, my brain's just broken. Permissions. It doesn't matter.
Copyright?
Like the permissions to use the copyrighted material in something you're doing. You like pay for the IP to use it or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing.
I'm the word escapes my brain completely, and that is just yes. Anyway, let's move on. God damn it. So now, about 11 days ago, we heard from Foundry that they are partnered with Wizards to bring Wizards content to Foundry. Now, this is an interesting thing. The only reason, because Foundry is a VTT, but Wizards is also working on their own VTT. So, now, why? My only thing I can think about is maybe because it's taking a while to do the Wizards' own VTT. They're doing this kind of thing, and also because they're thinking it's a good partnership for money at this point in time, and our own thing will be completely different than this and won't compete at all. That's all I'm thinking of, maybe. There's an article linked there for Dice for D&D arriving on Foundry, because official content.
Yeah. Alright, Foundry is supposed to be pretty good. Oh wait.
What's up?
No, I was just looking at something. Sorry, I wasn't like. I just got excited about something. I just saw that there's a very powerful school. Foundry BTT, and I'm like, maybe I actually should get this. I can money. Let me get this. Actually, is it a?
So it's a very interesting thing that the partnership has occurred. I gotta be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. It is weird that they'd be doing that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think it's the thing is, there's a lot going on to unpack behind this concept. You know, of D&D partnering with them right now.
Here's what I'm gonna say about this, honestly. Even if they have their own, they're still gonna want to put out content on other things because they know that not everyone's gonna use their stuff.
I think that's honestly what I was kind of thinking too. You know, it's the thing. It's an actual like smart move to, you know, and the thing is, it does show confidence more in your own product, that your own product would sell itself, so you could be on these other places without competing with yourself in a way, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's better when they do stuff like this because it does show that they, you know, want to expand their player bases and also that stuff there. Granted, I don't know if any of that's what they're thinking, but whatever. You know, the mindsets of who's making these deals is something that sometimes we're not privy to. But, you know, it does mean that if you want to get very official stuff and really nice looking things on Foundry that are related to D&D, you can.
Yeah.
So. Alright. Well, let's move on. We have a lot to talk about. This was just an interesting story I wanted to talk about because it's kind of neat and it relates to D&D history, and, you know, sometimes little things like this are fun to talk about. So probably won't dive into too deep, but apparently this is a talking about a man, Greg Stanford, who has given information about owning the possible first ever edition of actual copy of D&D. And a story about it, which is kind of neat. And Gygax apparently had confirmed that the box that the person had purchased was the first copy it sold of the TCR ever sold.
Interesting.
So this would have been like your official first box, not like, you know, playtest things. You know, this is like we're publishing it, and theoretically, you know, he bought that first copy, which is just this little like interesting thing of it. And yes, this is a person that, you know, did a bunch. Greg Stanford's been in the industry, you know, and has done a bunch of other things in it too. So, you know, and it's connected with like Chaosium and stuff like that.
Yeah, he also made RuneQuest.
Yeah, so it's it's a fun little history thing that I thought would have been neat to you know, bring up when I saw this article. It goes to show you that sometimes those little connections mean a lot, you know, when you hit people and like find things like this. It's fun. So and you know, it goes to show you like a lot of these important people, you know, that are influential to the world that we are in, started in very strange places, and, you know, honestly speaking, ran into each other more than you'd think, you know, because they helped develop an industry. So I love stories like this for the history of it. I really wanted to bring it up more than anything and shout it out here. So, hey. Shout.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. All right. So, we got a couple of Paizo topics. You know?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. So, apparently they are working with a VTT on phone. So.
Oh, finally.
Again, this is something that I do. It's Pengu Mobile VTT, and it's free to use. So I'm curious as to how well it works. Haven't had a chance to play test it. Just, you know, again, we got this announcement yesterday. So the core platform is free and accessible to all. The GM unlocks rules for all. It's got small adventures that are kind of built into it and stuff like that. They want to do a lot more stuff, you know, and things to develop more. So they've kind of got like a basic for what it is, a free early access version of this, and it's made to be a Pathfinder mobile VTT. So certainly we will probably, like, you know, if they continue to get support and development, you know, we can see it get more stuff there. But at very least, if you want to, you know, they do mention you can get it at their site if you're interested in trying it out. You know, they do warn.
Get it on their website.
pengustudios.com, and you have access to it and the player core toolkit at the same time.
No, I will say this is something that has bothered me, is that there's like no way to do anything from your phone for VTTs nowadays. It's a very missed opportunity.
Yeah, because like phones and tablets, sometimes that's what you have. We don't always have computers around, and honestly speaking,
even so, it's just like, even if all you had access to was rolling in like the chat, you know, maybe not even maps, but like it could tie into a game and you could have it on the side so you can full screen something else, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, but also just even the ability to get character sheets and stuff, you know, while you're out and about would be fun. So it's something I've very much thought about, and like Roll20 has kind of has something that kind of works, but it's barely functional.
Roll20 Mobile has always been so bad, though. You know, like, unless they've fixed it up recently that I'm unaware of.
No, that's why I said they kind of have something that kind of works.
And that's the thing, is sort of like, if I want to do Roll20 with people, like, I can easily get on a Discord call on my phone. You know, and, you know, if I'm out somewhere, let's say I can't bring a laptop to a convention or on a trip or something. You know, I don't have that ability. But I could bring my phone, and I want to play with my friends, and I have either enough data or Wi-Fi to do it. Because, mobile data, like, as long as you get a decent signal, you're probably okay. And it depends on how much data you have. I have unlimited data, so, you know, I would be willing to be like, oh, hey, we can use this that I can play with everybody.
I mean, imagine even just putting it out as, like, your map. And everyone can be like, oh, where's everything? And you can use it in a group.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, like, you know, I could pick up my phone, and I could put it down and have, like, a map on it, or, like, a tablet and have a map on it, and they could, like, you know, use the touchscreen to move their characters along. So, like, you know, I don't have to put together a big fancy map on a table or something like that, which is fine and fun if you still can do that. But sometimes, you know, you can't, and it's difficult. And having some of the stuff you have on, like, Roll20 accessible, that, like, a mobile VTT, even if you're not using it for the full VTT experience, there's still a lot of aspects of it that are useful, you know, on a phone or tablet, in, like, related to other real life and stuff. It's a section of the VTT market which really needs a lot more work, and I'm glad we are seeing something for it.
Yeah. I suspect this will have a bit more success than they think it will. Because they're like, oh, if it gets some success, we might continue. But it's like, no, I think this is something that's sorely needed.
Yeah. So we're seeing something really great. You know, I'm definitely happy that we're seeing this. I'm hoping I would like.
My initial reaction to VTT for phone, and I'm just like, finally. Like that's literally my initial response.
It's the thing is, it's like this is such a low bar to hit on right now. It's sort of like you just need it to be okay. You just need it to be okay. Our bar is so low for mobile VTT. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, we do have some more Paizo news. We know... Hi, Foggy. You're coming to say hi? I'm going to pick you up and have everybody say hi to you. Hi, Foggy. Meow, meow, meow. She's coming to say
Foggy.
hi. She ran in here. We do have a kind of... Bye. You're running around like silly. We do have a lineup for whatever we're all the things we're going to see.
Yeah, she didn't look like she wanted to be picked up just then. She was like, meh.
She is very rarely wants to actually be picked up. So,
okay.
You know. We do have a big lineup of stuff that's coming out that's going to be showed off at Gen Con later on this year from Paizo. I'll talk about the Starfinder playtest product announcement in a minute, but I'll talk about everything else. Here's at very least the Dicebreakers article on it. There was another one I saw that had some more books, but I'll just use that one because it's a pretty good one, usually. So we're going to be seeing... So we know we're not getting Players Core until around then, because that's when we're really seeing Players Core 2. We're also
Players
seeing...
Core is going to be a lot longer, but Monster... the Monster... Oh, wait. Next Pathfinder RPG Core Rulebook.
I think it's Monster Core.
Okay. Yeah, Monster Core will be next month.
And then I think...
Remastered Monster Core is next month.
And I think soon after Gen Con, we'll probably get Players Core 2. So that's probably where we're getting introduced to it.
June is the projected... I literally was looking into this shortly before the stream. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think
so.
It was
So
June.
it might be like they might.
July is the next one.
Yeah. So it'd be like right after it's released, they're showing it off. You know, officially at Gen Con. You know, that's the big convention that we'll be seeing it at. But it might be actually released then. We're also getting a adventure path, the Curtain Call adventure path. We're going to be taking a look at, which is an adventure path where it's going to be from 11 to 20 levels. 3 adventures. So that's a really interesting a span of levels, because it's high-level Pathfinder 2nd Edition play for an adventure. And it's going to involve the characters producing an opera based on their adventures. That sounds pretty neat. The Curtain Call. That I've got information on another thing about that one, I think. Yeah, about that being showed off there.
Okay, that was a different thing. I'm like, I don't see...
Yeah. The 2 main ones they're talking about on Dicebreakers is Players Core 2 and Starfinder 2nd Edition playtest book. I do have little blurbs about 2 other things that are going to be showed off there, and Curtain Call is going to be one of them. That seems neat.
Yeah.
It's high-level gameplay.
Oh, wait. So, if I remember correctly, the physical books are being released first, and then the PDFs are being released like a month later, I think.
For the
Monster Core and the... So maybe, because I have it pre-ordered, that might be why I'm getting it in June or July.
Okay.
And then, yeah, the full release for their PDFs. Cause I don't know why they do that. Usually you want, in my opinion, you want your PDFs first. So that way you can catch errors.
I thought they had it first.
For these ones, they don't. I'm pretty certain.
They might not. Pathfinder. I can spell today. Players Core 2. Pre-order expected August 1st, right around Gen Con. they're saying at the bottom, and pre-order is expected July 2024 up there. That's the hardcover book. Let me see the PDF version. Oh, they may not mention it over here. Yeah, Monster Core. Okay, Monster Core, we know the PDF's available on March 27th. Let's see Monster Core. They say the PDF's the same for Monster Core, at least, for print. Pre-order expected 27th of March 2024. PDF's available March 27th, 2024. So, that's at least the same. So, they don't mention the other one. They might have at the same time. But they are, it sounds like that one they're planning on, it looks July, for the one that's going to be at Gen Con, it's either late July or basically when Gen Con is at. Because Gen Con will be from 1st to 3rd. And at the bottom of the page, it does say August 1st.
It's possible they're shipping late July, which may mean maybe what it's going.
Okay. So we'll see the two major things there. We'll see the curtain call, which will be kind of neat. And the other thing is they are going to be showing off Pray for Death, which is actually interesting because players take on...
It does. Player Core 2 is expected July 2024 is what it says on the website where you find it, in the where you buy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it must be late July is when they're. So maybe you'll get it just before Gen Con.
Yeah, you might just get it right before Gen Con, which will probably again. It's probably going to be like you release the PDF at the exact same time, probably. You know.
Yeah, they might release them at the same time. I thought I saw something about PDF being released later for some of...
There might have been something that they did that with, you know. They could actually... Again, it could have been for one of the unique releases.
Yeah.
So, Pray for Death is going to be... players will take on the role of Red Mantis Assassins. That sounds like a neat adventure. It's a 14th level adventure with a bunch of stuff based around it's playing Red Mantis Assassins. So, I mean, like... I'm going to be honest. We have... Players Core 2, and 2 really neat-sounding adventures, you know?
Yeah. Paizo has been experimenting a lot with level ranges for adventures.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, like they've done... they have done, you know, the three-book adventure paths. They've done, like, 1 to 10, and then they've done 10 to 20s. So you can kind of, if you really wanted to, mix and match them. Maybe. But they've also done like 1 to 12, and I think they were like I think they might do like a 5 to 15 is something they're thinking of trying.
Yeah, they're experimenting more with different areas of levels, and they are seemingly working on making sure that we are getting play at different levels of the game, up to 20th level. You know, that's the thing is, and I also like that when they're producing adventures, we're getting interesting things like this Pray for Death. You know, that's really great. You know, it's your morally ambiguous characters working for basically the lawful assassins guild of Galarian. They're basically the what's the assassins guild in Skyrim?
There's the Dark Brotherhood, but funny enough, it wouldn't be them. It would be the assassins from Morrowind who are legal.
Because they have kind of like their own code of ethics too, you know, like Red Man. Like I looked into Red Mantises. Like Red Mantises won't kill like leaders of a country. You know, if you are like a king or something, they will not commit regicide without like certain caveats and stuff like that. You know, I think like you'd have to be like it's under a revolution or like a war or something something where
Morag Tong are the Morrowind's official assassins. So you actually can like legally hire assassins, but they have to be through this thing and they have to follow specific rules.
Red Mantis, I think, are closer to that, but they're a little off from that because basically they kind of have their own island. But it's that kind of like thing of like, yeah, everybody hires Red Mantises for specific jobs that they are willing to take. But you have to follow the Red Mantis' rules in order to get them to do that. But then they are a very elite assassin group. So it's interesting to be characters that are part of that. And level 14 is a pretty high-level campaign. So That's going to be neat. The other thing that I do want to turn to, which we are going to be seeing released, is the Starfinder 2e playtest, which is coming in the form of a product here. I'm going to put the link to their blog post on it. There you go. So, yeah. It's interesting to see that they have the Starfinder playtest rulebook, they call it here.
I think they have something like that for Pathfinder as well that I saw.
Yeah, they might have. It's interesting because it is a printed rulebook that you can get.
There's a Pathfinder playtest in their store.
It's one of those things that it's both you know, there's the question that's very important here in the chat is playtest 2 of Pathfinder, or, you know, Pathfinder 2nd edition did something similar to this, but they provided basically a free PDF to anybody that wanted it, or a printed book if you wanted it too. So that is an interesting thing. Are they going to do the same?
On their website,
yeah.
There's a Pathfinder playtest rulebook that is no longer in print. So they did at one point sell a Pathfinder playtest, and you could buy their hardcover book.
Yeah, but I remember you could like also just get the PDF for free if you really wanted to during the playtest time. Yeah, well, that's what they did for the 2nd edition Pathfinder.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
The
question is,
they'll probably do that with this one, is what I meant to say.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, look, honestly, if they do, that's really cool. They'd be selling them at Gen Con. It's a thing that's like it's kind of a collector's item, but it's also like, as much as PDFs are great, there are plenty of us out there that love a good physical book, and this would it's a 264-page soft cover rule book, you know, that gives you a lot of information. And they do say you need the Pathfinder Players Core and GM Core to use it, because it is based on the revised rules of Players Core, GM, and GM Core right now, and also it's in development, you know.
Does normal Starfinder require that?
No.
Starfinder, okay, so normal Starfinder is standard.
I think the reason is they're pretty much just putting the material in this playtest book that you just need to make whatever game you're playing Starfinder. The question of how much you'll need Players Core or GM Core is probably based around rules and stuff.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's neat because, like, I mean, I think it's cool because they honestly. So I've actually been reading through the Pathfinder books recently, and I'm like, okay, they really did streamline a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because I've only ever played 1E, and so I'm reading through 2E it's like, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense. This is a much better way to handle things.
2E does such a good job on a lot of things. I'm sorry, like I do want to sit down and read through the Players Core, but I just even 2nd edition beforehand was just so many fixing so many things from 1E.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, I mean, 1E was a mess. I mean, it was based off of another mess, so it makes sense. And it strived for a weird amount of realism in a fantasy setting. 1E did.
Yeah.
That's why there's rules for everything. I mean,
well,
because it's all like, you have to do this to do this, and then you have to do this to do this, and you have to do this to do this.
1E is
there's a separate rule for swimming and fighting, and you know, if you're flying, you have to make these checks. You know, it's like
1E is a direct leftover in a lot of ways, including the way that they handle rules of what came about after 3rd edition and 3.5. This, yeah, and the thing is, like, so many times when I think about it, like, in comparing it to those old editions, it's so, like, close to it. And the thing is, they took a lot of good steps away and fixed a lot of stuff in Pathfinder 1E, but they didn't go far enough in a lot of ways. And I think it's the fact that you didn't have a lot of time. Yeah, you didn't have a lot of time to move away from what was going on in D&D when 4E was, like, this kind of weird side project almost, you know. So they had to just kind of fix what they had.
I think they did fix a lot of things from 3.5. I haven't seen much of 3.5, but what little I have seen, I'm like, yeah, I can see why this is not great. Because it's just, like, it's so easy to break. And they did fix that in Pathfinder.
Yeah.
I just think that what really happened is the bloat. It was so... There were so many rules, and the fact that you had to basically create a new rule for basically everything created just the craziest amount of bloat. And there was also the power creep thing, too, so it's like, it just got bad.
Actually, I think
that's why now Pathfinder 1E is so bad, because there's no consistency in any of it, but there's so much of it.
I think the thing is there was a mistake in the one thing you said there. There really wasn't power creep. Because you know what they did? They put a lot of shit which just applied to one adventure and nowhere goddamn else. So much crap is in Pathfinder that you look at that going, that's neat. It applies in only one adventure and I'm not playing that adventure. There's so much of it.
Yeah.
There's entire spells and feats.
There's also a lot of useless stuff.
Yeah, there's so much useless stuff.
The power creep I'm thinking of is like how they had to make the revised rogue and stuff. Because the original ones are just so bad
those
by
stuff.
Comparison to everything else.
Oh god.
They eventually, they had to buff it because like originally when that's all they had, it wasn't terrible. But then as they added more complex things, these things became unusable. So there was some amount of power.
I think it was less on that and more that like they looked back and said, oh, hey, these things sucked in comparison to everything else we did for the original stuff, too, you know? But yeah, I can see that, like, some of the archetypes and more feat combinations did add definitely power creep. That part of it I can definitely see is there became standardizations for power creep within Pathfinder First Edition. This is, like, a side thing about Pathfinder First Edition for just a second there. Which definitely, bloat, unnecessary shit. There was definitely some power creep. And when I talk about... And the rules bloat, I think, is the worst part of it. You know, the generic, like, shit that, like, applies to maybe one adventure here or there, that's fine. You know, that's bloat, but I gotta be honest, I prefer that stuff. It's not really adding a lot of extra power. It's really great if you're in this situation where it's useful, but it's kind of like that kind of mid-grade thing. The rules bloat, oh my god, just, it's giving me nightmares to the rules that they had for fucking, they've got, like 2 or 3 different versions of, like, fleet combat. The ones starting in Skulls and Shackles, they're all terrible. You know, I looked at all of them. None of them are good. You know, I think that's the problem, too, is they came up with all these rules for different things and, like, not always worked. Because they were trying to, like... There were things they wanted characters to do. To give it a lot of that, like, epic fantasy stuff more than just, you know, we're adventuring in a dungeon. Which is fine, and a lot of mechanics that they wanted to add, and a lot of them failed. There's a couple that worked, but a lot of them failed.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that I've started to see more recently about, like, rules and stuff, where, in a lot of cases, it's better to skip the realism for a good mechanic.
I'm going to tell you...
But Pathfinder 1E is just so much about its realism, like...
I have very much been, like, kind of using the rules when I need to in 1E at this point in time. It is a suggestion to it, but because of the way 1E is, I've been kind of skirting by stuff a lot when playing things like Crimson Queen. I can play 1E, but playing a little bit more fast and loose with stuff, I think is a little bit better. I'm keeping stuff from, like... I'm keeping a lot of stuff from the core rulebook the same. And basically keeping it to basically the core rules. And basically, when it comes to expanded stuff, I'm just kind of like, whatever. You know? And when even stuff when it comes to core rulebooks, I'm kind of like taking it to its essence and maybe not to its letter. You know, that kind of thing of like, yeah, we just... I could have done so much stuff with, like, people going underwater. And I did things like... I did very little of it. I'm like, no one really needs to make checks. It's fine. Whatever. You know? Like,
yeah, I feel like the river should have been a little bit more turbulent, just because it is generally
You're supposed to
would
fight the
actually call-
eels. You're supposed to fight the eels.
I
There was
literally
also-
picked a feat. Okay,
Yeah.
that's why I actually picked the Barroom Brawler feat. 'Cause I'm like, there are so many feats that are so marginally useful that the Barroom Brawler is actually the best way to use them.
Yeah.
Which is basically just like I can basically pick another feat and use it for a minute. If we had to fight underwater, I was prepared to pick aquatic combat.
I'm going to tell you,
Which
there was another possible combat, but with the team you had, you would have been utterly screwed.
interesting. Was that the one that we skipped with the Pharasma?
No. That was an entirely optional thing. The Pharasma stuff was just some information about, like, hey, if you want to do some other stuff, here's some other things that you can use, you know. Which really, if I really had put it together, I would have had you, like, have a fight in a graveyard with some ghouls and ghasts that, you know, did Blood Veil. But I'm like, it's an interesting hook for something you can do that makes you feel like you're doing something, especially because Momo's character has been dealing with the Church of Pharasma. That's not only why I brought it up and kind of did it more cinematically. The other thing was there was another possible fight in the ship. It was possible, it wasn't 100%, but basically because you weren't doing anything to prevent it, it most likely would have happened normally. The thing about that is, it's a thing that has intelligence and has an ability to basically mind control someone with low will. Joe.
Okay.
Joe is a fighter character. It targets the person that looks the biggest and toughest, and then basically has it fight its allies.
Oh, okay. So that's what would have happened in the room, I'm guessing, with the captain.
Yes. The room before the captain with all the stuff that something had been eating there.
Okay.
It has moved in. It's normally out in the river doing stuff. There's good chances of it coming back and some things that would happen that could do that. No one was trying to avoid anything. I decided, because of the team you sent down there, you didn't have everybody, not to have the fight.
Yeah.
It would have murdered all of you. There would have been a chance of winning, but it would have... It was a CR that required your entire team, and you were missing 2 people.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's not like we had, like, 10 water-breathing spells.
That's what I mean is, I didn't want to screw you because it's built into the book, and it doesn't need to be there. The fight isn't important to the story.
Like, that's what's weird to me, is, like, I mean, unless you had it, like, break out of... Like, what you could have done, I think, is make it attack us before we even got to the ship, maybe? And then the party could have fought it from this boat. And...
I actually was thinking about it having attack you on the boat, too. But then I realized the nature of the combat on that boat and the nature of some of the other things related to it would have basically mitigated a lot of its natural abilities. Its natural abilities are better to fight underwater. And... I mean,
like, again, it would attack the people underwater, us, but it would attack us before we got to the ship, is what I'm saying you could have done.
Oh,
So
I could have done that too, but the other people would still have not been close enough to help you because it's like 70 feet down.
What I'm saying is you could have done it, like, when
right
it was 30
at
feet
the
down.
surface. Yeah, so maybe. Again, that's the thing is, I did think a lot about that. And there's a lot of... And the thing is, the rules for fighting with water suck ass.
I mean, that's literally why I picked up the one feat I did. Because, or the one,
we played around.
Prepared.
We played around with we played around with that in Skulls and Shackles 3 or 4 times, and that's why I said to myself, you know what? This is important to the story.
No, I agree.
Yeah, that was the entire thing.
I know we're not doing experience. My whole thing, though, is just that I literally picked a thing that negates all penalties underwater. For fighting underwater. Or, sorry, I picked a thing which could have allowed me to negate all penalties.
And the thing is, the guy on the boat from the cult should have been off the boat. He basically went to grab his stuff when the ship was being attacked, because he was supposed to jump offside and swim away. He fell over and hit his head, and then drowned.
Okay.
So... he shouldn't have been left behind for evidence. The ship should have been basically empty. It would have been mysterious. But again, you know, it's a quarantine ship. They're not going to send people down right away. Animals can scavenge stuff. And if everybody was on deck or something and maybe no one was seen, there could have been reasons to excuse it all. The guy basically was like, I'm going to grab my stuff. Whoops!
See, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So,
I mean,
yeah, but again,
I was just saying, yeah, you could have, but to be fair, I was not part of Skulls and Shackles. I don't know how terrible water combat is.
there was an entire water dungeon. It did not go well. There were actually technically 2 water dungeons early on. Neither went well. One is half, underwater, so you're like walking through like deep water, and the final boss area is a giant arena of water. Really suck. The second one that they do is completely underwater, and it's just not good. Like, again, small water combats, it might have been okay, but I was kind of thinking, like, honestly speaking, it's sometimes less is more, kind of in that case in time, and I get it. Yeah, so that's why I we just went through it.
I was just curious to try water combat.
There are still opportunities for water combat I might use, honestly speaking. Okay. It's just at this point in time, I was like, yeah, you know what, this is just.
You wanted to save our I mean, your idea, I think, was to save the combat for the perfume shop, but then we skipped that. So.
Honestly speaking, I really liked that you did skip it. It was fun, You did it in a very interesting way, It
was interesting. We charmed the peasant into giving us the thing, and we never went back to heal him.
Maybe, probably not.
I mean, we said we still haven't actually gone to the next day yet. We technically woke up the next day and what's his face like? What's her face? Lucia.
Lucia. So, like, again, like, Lucia could have, you could still take care of it, etc., 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 yeah. I mean, again, it's an interesting thing of, like, it's playing through an adventure path that is one that I don't want, I still want combats, but I don't want too many combats, and sort of, like, you had the big fights against the were-rats, which definitely, like, I gotta be honest, you failed so many checks. And, like,
we failed a lot. We failed all of our charisma checks, even though a lot of us did have good checks.
Yeah, like, it's just so. It's the thing is, like, honestly speaking, like, you had a very good chance of making the checks, because it was sort of like, I think I said, like, I set the basic DC for the diplomacy of, like, 25 for, like, the first one, and, like, you got, like, a 20 or something, so it was, like, it wasn't that far off. It's just that, like, it was hard. And so, like, I was ready for you to get into combats with some other things here, and you just, honestly speaking, just skipping the perfume shop. I was fine with it too. Like, it's like, if it was combat, it was combat. If you went about it in an interesting and creative way, I'm not going to punish you. And that's something I want to make sure to do, because first edition can punish that. Anyway, getting back to the second edition play test, because we did kind of get on this conversation for Starfinder. I think it's great that we're building off of this. Second edition is, and especially the Players Core, GM Core, has streamlined a lot of stuff. I'm assuming when we finally get the full book on its own, it'll probably be like, it'll include all that stuff that you'll need, that you would have needed from these books now. But yes, so we'll see about the pre-order. It's expected in July, so probably, they say, like, product availability, pre-order expected August 1st, 2024, but they also say up under the price, July 2024. So I assume it's like the back end of July, early, like up around Gen Con. We're going to see the physical thing, and we might see the PDF around then.
Yeah, if they're going to be selling them at Gen Con is probably the idea.
Yeah, and we'll see more of, like, the actual, then, like, full playtest of it all. And this will be, like, we'll probably get a couple of updates here and there for, like, like they did with the original one. Like, the PDF got a few updates before they finally do the final thing, so. Yeah.
I'm excited for the Starfinder 2nd edition. I want to play it, but I don't want to learn Pathfinder 1E all over.
Starfinder 1st edition is very Pathfinder 1E. It's like, I call it 1.5 because it has a lot of essence of what was in Pathfinder 1E, but they do fix a lot of issues for it, fortunately. But,
I believe it.
I'm interested. I'm definitely interested, because they've announced this, how they're going about this. So, it'll be neat. Okay. Let's move on. We're on. Where are we on this list? I'm gonna put the docket back in because we've been talking for a while. Yeah. Okay. Camping Fluxx.
Starfinder. camping Fluxx. That's what.
Yeah. So, camping Fluxx is.
I've heard of Fluxx.
We've played Fluxx on Tabletop Simulator.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, I know what it is now. Yeah, that's where the rules changed. Right. Yeah.
Yes. It's out now. It came on February 2nd. So we've had a lot of different versions of Fluxx, over 40 different versions, 24 expansions, originally for 2 to 6 players. It's had a lot of different experience. The core of it has been the same. So this is supposed to kind of be like a little few new trysts and stuff like that, special action cards. It's attempting to, I guess you could say, revitalize Fluxx a little bit, you know? Because the game, as much as we've had a lot of different versions of it, you know, you can see, like, I guess, in the essence, the plan with it is to just be, you know, not just another Fluxx, maybe like,
That's gonna be hard. It is Fluxx.
I know. I think the idea of it is it's just supposed to be like a new take on Fluxx or something. Kind of like, I think I'm comparing it how they're doing it to like how they did when they did Arkham Horror, and they did the new edition of Arkham Horror a couple years ago, where it was still Arkham Horror, but they did things a lot differently. Like, instead of having a big board, you built your own board, you know, that you had, like, tiles to build a board and stuff like that, which was really neat and stuff like that. So you could have something a little different, and it re-revitalized. So the idea is we're adding a little bit more to, you know, revitalize yourself with Fluxx, you know. And you can look at the...
They have a new little basic rules card.
Yeah.
That's like, it actually will tell you what's going on, which is kind of nice, because you're always like, okay, wait, hold on, what's going on now?
Yeah, the basic rules are always nice. Different types of cards.
Yeah, but it's like basic rules, but then you play it on top of, like, you play the other cards on top of the basic rules in a certain way that makes it so you can kind of more easily keep track of what's going on. They're displaying the basic rules better, you know. Yes.
And I do like how, yeah, they're putting, you put the play number and the draw numbers on top of the basic rules now, you know. That is definitely really cool. Again, it's just meant to basically reinvigorate the game a little bit. It's been out for a lot of years now. I really like Fluxx, but a little bit of a fresh take, a little bit of something different, you know. Even if it's something like having fun around camping, you know, I think it's a good thing to do. Just to, you know, a fresh coat of paint on top of the old game, you know? And hopefully, you know, if we would test it out, that's what it would be. Speaking of card-based games, this was an interesting announcement that I saw about Dominion, the classic deck-building game. I was up on Dice Breakers. So it is now free to play on mobile and PC.
Oh.
Yeah. A free adaptation on PC and mobile devices. The official version is available to download on Steam and Android and iOS Marketplace. So, not to dive deep into it, you know, it seems as though they are selling the expansions, but the base game is free. So, if you want to get a bunch of the expansions, you'd still have to buy those on wherever you're at, you know. But if you just want to play the base game at this point in time with your friends, because it supports up to 6 players, I think you might need an expansion for up to 6 players. You might be able to play with a certain amount. I think it's up to 2 to 4 normally. But again, like, Dominion's fun. A lot of the other cards bring a lot to the game. If you've never played Dominion, it is the original, not the original, but it is the quintessential deck building competition game where you like purchase stuff from a central market and take turns doing that. There's a lot of games that do that type of gameplay nowadays with their own little twists and spins, but Dominion is the one that really cemented that type of gameplay. And it's been out for over a decade now. I think the original one is, they say here, 2008. So, working on 16 years. So if you want to try playing it, get on Steam or your mobile device. This was an interesting one. We're going through Dicebreaker articles now for a little bit, because I've got 2 weeks of articles that's linked to things like Kickstarters and stuff, and some are just interesting news. There was I knew this existed, but I don't know anything about it. But it was very interesting that the U.S. tournament for the One Piece card game was terrible, and apparently was cut short with heat, limited food, and, forced to close with 14 hours of play. So it was a mess. The event took 14 hours for a tournament. 14 hours is a little much.
Wow. In LA, you didn't plan for, like, heat?
No, apparently not. This is so, like... You hear stories about stuff like this, but sometimes you're just like, so you didn't plan about this. So, this was like the finals and the step towards the World Championship. Again, I was aware of the One Piece card game. I didn't know they had a World Championship until this article.
Yeah, I didn't even know the One Piece card game, honestly.
Oh, give me a second to... Yeah, I've heard of some of these card games. I've got to...
The price, stick price. Huh. So apparently they didn't, like... Oh gosh, there's a lot more to that, too. So yeah, no, there's a lot of other issues, too, so... Yeah, I was just saying, there are a lot of other issues, too. Like, apparently a lot of people didn't get the promotional Gear 5 Luffy or whatever that was promised.
Yeah.
It was,
yeah, 100 people vying for the top 64 on tiebreakers. The end result of players who'd qualified early on the season ended up shut out of competition second day. After 14 hours of play, not in spite of. But due to winning a qualified event. So it's like, it's just like, it was so unorganized and a mess, it seems like, of like people qualifying for stuff too, that they weren't like, God. Jesus. Plaguing and problems with the matchmaking and stuff like that. Zero food or drink available. Food trucks outside had 50 plus people in it.
Yeah, and apparently because of the style of tournament, it's your ability to progress is based off your win-loss ratio.
Mm-hmm.
To get into like the top brackets, and so you just play random people. I think like play against different people, and so the fact that it was cut short basically means people couldn't recover, or they couldn't basically, and a lot of people probably couldn't even play. Every match they were supposed to. Some people probably played more than others, which made the win-loss ratio imbalanced and stuff. So.
Wow.
I'm not actually super clear how that works, but
I've been in different tournaments. I'm not sure the exact tournament style they used, but it sounds like it was kind of like probably matched you up against people to like play against and stuff like that. So
yeah,
they probably
it a Swiss tournament.
Yeah, I've heard of Swiss tournaments before. I could not explain it to you off the top of my head, but man, that kind of sucks. That like a big like card game for people that are fans of this, like a big like tournament. Probably the biggest in the U.S. for like the whatever World Championships, which might be in like Japan, and it just goes to shit. So, yeah. Anyway, we can move on.
I'll be honest, the people don't look super happy.
I'm sure they don't. Jesus.
The picture.
Yeah, it does not sound like they would be after all of that kind of stuff. So
there was a flop.
That was a flop.
Poorly organized event.
So there is a dark fantasy 5e sort of horror, sort of very Castlevania-ish inspired thing, Veil of the Eternal Night. So it's up on Kickstarter now. Woo! Vampire hunting, grimdark fantasy. It's for 5e. It's funded with 19 days to go. Honestly speaking, I don't know if we've gotten like a necessarily Castlevania style vampire hunting kind of monster fighting kind of RPG yet before. So maybe we have. I can't recall if we have or not.
I mean, World of Darkness, kind of.
Sort
do
of.
a hunter game.
Yeah, but it's not the same. But again, like
I agree.
They've got a guide to that kind of fighting monsters, a adventure, a lot of different things like that. Some subclasses, a couple of lineages and stuff like that. Gretchling, Dampier, Batfolk, and a Plague Doctor, and along with other subclasses and stuff like that. Which Plague Doctor might be one of them. I don't know. They just say like.
Alright, yeah. So it's built for 5e.
It's built for 5e. Again, it's what we're going to be seeing probably a lot more of, or continue to see a lot of, is stuff that's like adapted versions of 5e. And I don't mind this.
Adapted versions of other things is very common nowadays, which I actually don't mind, because it's like there is a lot of there's a lot of good rule systems, and I feel like everyone that tries to invent a new one is kind of annoying.
Yes. Honestly speaking, basically making your own take on a lot of these systems, especially the systems that people are allowed to make takes on, is probably the best. And we're hopefully going to see more of those in the future. But for now, we'll keep seeing 5e ones. It's neat. It kind of like, gives mythical boss fights, an interesting world. If you want to check it out, I linked the Kickstarter.
It also does allow people to focus a lot more on the world building, which is cool.
Yeah.
Cool monsters.
Yeah. The PDF and original soundtrack they have along with it is for $20, which is kind of neat. That they have a soundtrack and the PDF you can get. Or like a bunch of PDFs of the different books and the soundtrack for $45. So they do have a physical book if you want it to. So if you want to check it out, I've linked it there. I thought it looked cool. I'll have to mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Castlevanniaish 5e. That's not Curse of Strahd.
Yeah.
Curse of Strahd is not Castlevania.
It really isn't. That's very true. So we
Vampire
did have
folklore, but it's not Castlevania.
Yeah. So there are a bunch of books coming out that have been announced for. I'm going to use the Dicebreakers article because we could probably go to Chaosium's different ones, but that just links to all the information on it, honestly. But Call of Cthulhu is returning to Arkham! Yay! Apparently they had an Arkham book like long ago, and we're actually getting a new update on Arkham. It's
is the thing with Arkham. I mean, I know there's Arkham Horror, which is
Arkham Horror is basically the Cthulhuan mythos and stuff like that. It's the major city that's related to it. It's sort of like the I would compare it to it's your Gotham to Batman kind of thing. It's like Batman can technically go other places, especially in some certain stories, but most of the time stories related to them are set around Gotham. In this case, traditional Lovecraftian stories are around Arkham. That's why Arkham Horror is named such as that. It's set in Arkham, with things like the Miskatonic Valley are and different locations there. So it's going to expand on the original source book of information on Arkham, new options for NPCs, locations, scenarios. So they're doing a best thing of they're taking whatever information was there and expanding on it. So hey, I thought it's neat they're revisiting like a place that, because of the nature of Call of Cthulhu, they didn't really need as much anymore. Because again, like, your stories, a lot of like, you know, board game versions of stuff like this are usually set around Arkham and stuff like that. It's the traditional one, this the weird Massachusetts town. But now they've done a lot to walk away from that, but revisiting the old place is also pretty good too.
It's what's interesting to me is like a lot of them are set in Arkham. Like a lot of like I need to finish reading that stuff. I read up like half of it and then I stopped. But yeah, no, I do find it funny. It's like there's a lot of Arkham, but there is a lot of other stuff too. Like there's some set in the sea, there's some set in random places. But yeah, there are ones like is the Fishmaid one set in Arkham? I thought that one was set.
No, it's set in another city nearby to it, but still in Massachusetts. Innsmouth.
Yeah. Innsmouth, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Innsmouth.
Because the Arkham Horror, the original board game I had, which I think was
the Fishman of Innsmouth. Yes, that makes sense. Okay.
That was the third edition or second edition I played, because third edition is when it came out. It had a Innsmouth like expansion where you set up a second board next to the normal one, where you could take a train over to Innsmouth and do adventures over there too, or something weird like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like which ones take place in Arkham. So there's a lot set in like a dream world.
Oh yeah, like I think it's like it revolves around the city or stuff, or like, you know, but I don't remember like a lot of it.
Because the ones that like I know there are some. Oh, was that Lovecraft? That was I don't know. There's like I'm also just having trouble remembering because it's been a while since we've read them.
Yeah. Well, if anything that was in Miskatonic University is an Arkham technically, so it could just mention the university too.
Got it. I know there was one that was like a castle, I think, where it's like, was that Lovecraft? I think it was Lovecraft, where it was basically like the whole thing of like there was a curse put on a family that they'd all die before a certain age, and the plot twist is that it's just some guy murdering them all.
That's a heck of a plot twist. Help! I'm just murdering you all.
Yep.
We're also, again, they've also said, like, they announced this a little earlier, but now they're saying they're also going to put out a 3-part campaign and a collection of one-shots. So it'll be interesting to see. They might kind of relate around that area too. So they're revisiting like an old friend of you know, kind of so to say, you know, stopping back at the traditional stuff.
It was interesting. I need to read more Lovecraft. I love Lovecraftian stuff. Lovecraft stuff is interesting. As long as you look past the horrible racism. Yeah, sometimes you're like reading and you're like, what did he mean by... Oh, that's what you remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Sorry, man. You just...
No. It's the one thing that everyone knows is a thing. But he made good stuff, so we don't make it.
I think it's, again, like, we as usually pretty good educated people are like, meaning like, that is the time period it was set in, you know? It's True. We understand that the person who wrote it lived in a different time. Yeah. So, I have another thing from Chaosium, and I actually have a blog post for this, because we're going to be getting...
To be fair, it was kind of non-kosher in that area during
I'm sure.
As well.
God.
But...
it's...
Anyway,
Pendragon 6e. It's going to be coming out. So, the 6th edition of the Pendragon role-playing game system, which I know very little about, but I know of it. I know of it by name.
Heard of it.
Yeah.
I know nothing more other than I heard.
Greg Stafford, the one who did Rune Crater, considered this his masterpiece.
RuneQuest
RuneQuest Crater. who did pass away. You know, I don't remember. We missed when he passed away, unfortunately. Sorry about that. You know, shout out to him and, you know, the work he did. But yes.
Oh, wait. RuneQuest. When we talked about him earlier, my brain kept thinking RuneScape, even though I was saying RuneQuest, and I'm all like, that's interesting. No, RuneQuest is different. Anyway, sorry.
5th edition came out in 2005. There were some updates, 2010, 2016, but none were a major, like, addition in on itself. So, Chaosium gained the rights to the game after Stafford's passing in 2020. He passed in 2018. Well, that's why we didn't talk about it. I wasn't as well at the show back in 2018. You know, 2018, I did a pretty good job in the show. Missed a lot of stuff like this. So, you know, that explains when, you know, 2018 me, you know, I've learned a lot on, like, doing this show in the 6 years since then. So, they are releasing a quick set of 6th edition rules. The scenario, The Adventure of the Great Hunt. So the play kit will be offered for free. But yes, we are going to be getting in April the first actual, like, you know, this, apparently the original one was released 40 years ago. The first Pendragon
edition in nearly 2 decades.
Yeah. So we got the first 5 editions of the first 20 years of this game, and except for those 2 small updates, we haven't gotten anything in 20 years about this classic RPG. So we're finally getting a 6th edition. Chaosium does a good job on this thing, you know. You know, they do a good job with Call of Cthulhu, and they've done some good jobs with some other games. So I'm not feeling like, I feel like they'll do probably a pretty good job. They've handled RuneQuest, which he also did. So I'm hoping the best that we'll get a really cool edition here, and maybe it'll, like, bring it to the, you know, modern age, while still staying true to its stuff. We'll have to, like, you know, look at it, talk with some people about it, but you know, cool. Pretty much want to do that, my shout out for that one, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to try a bunch of it.
It's a classic one. It'd be really cool to see, like, how well they reinvigorate that classic.
Yeah. It'd just be fun to do, like, a one-shot in, like, a bunch of different systems.
Yeah.
Test them out.
You know, I didn't know that this was something that really would interest me until I saw that someone decided to mash these 2 things together. But someone did. Someone decided that, you know what Jane Austen's book, Sense and Sensibility, required? Sentai characters. It's Power Rangers in, like, Victorian England.
Oh, that's what Sentai is. I was wondering.
Yes, it's basically Power Rangers teams, is Sentai. So, I love that there's a steampunk giant robot in the background here. In the picture.
Yeah.
It's funded, you know? The tokusatsu, the, like, Power Ranger Sunday morning cartoons with, like, the romance novel kind of storytelling of Jane Austen.
I mean, okay, like, the thing about the whole Jane Austen, there's Sense and Sensibility and zombies, there's so many spin-offs of it. I don't know why it's just become, like, the best thing to spin off of, because, I mean, I think it's just because she made, like, a whole bunch of books in that thing, so it's a very well done setting.
Yeah. It's interesting, you know. I love how they, like, you know, your squadron known as Sentai will play through a session of descriptive rendezvous, which will encompass both social and combat interactions. Go to a ball. Try to find a love match for your sister. Swim away to transform into your powerful fighting force to save the day from a fire-breathing dragon that just attacked. You know? So it's sort of like, we have to become heroes to stop the fire-breathing dragon. Did you find a nice man for your sister? Not quite yet. It's so, like... It's... Because, again, like, I think that does encompass those stories that we have for a lot of versions of, like, what we know of in the English version of, like, Power Rangers and stuff, more than the Japanese versions of stuff. Of, like, you know, it's the normal 9 to 5 of, like, the high schoolers' lives. Except it's kind of in this weird Victorian etiquette world, and then you go like take your steam-powered mecha to fight a dragon.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's so silly, and I kind of love it.
To the welcome, gentle folk, to the polymorph school of etiquette and kaiju fighting.
So like, so I guess it uses the polymorph system, which I think I've heard the polymorph system. I don't know a lot about it. The name sounds familiar. I think I've seen some other games that have used it before. So cool. Honestly, again, it seems crazy. It seems fun. I wanted to shout it out. The rewards, $12. You get a PDF and a companion deck, PNP. So,
So basically, it's more about like which die you roll. There's an advantage-disadvantage system, but like your stats are more what die you roll, so you don't have to do math. You just roll the die, and the result is the result.
Okay, cool.
That's
all right.
Basically what I read through in like 2 seconds from the overview on Polymorph.
Neat. So I'm going to link both the Dicebreakers article about this, because this was an interesting one to talk about, and I'm going to link the notification Kickstarter page, because it's an upcoming Kickstarter that's doing this one. So, do you remember the video game? It was a indie game, Children of Morta. I remember it because I remember seeing someone play through it. I thought it looked interesting. I said it might be an interesting one to play.
I honestly don't think I've ever heard of this.
It is a roguelike game where you play a family that have like powers that are like either defending something or doing something. I can't remember the exact reason why you're playing through it, but like there's like a threat that you're working together as a family and like going on various missions, and it has a story. So it's like kind of like a roguelike with a story.
That's so funny. I think this is on one of your
yes,
Guess the Game things. Like
recently,
very recently, like 2 days
I couldn't remember the name of it. That's what I remember about it. I'm like, I know this. I remember it because
the art. I remember it. I'm like, oh yeah, that was on the thing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna launch this spring. It was out in 2019. Wow, 3 years ago 5 years ago at this point in time. I think I saw someone play it like a couple years ago, and it had been out for a while. Like when I saw someone play through it. Wonderful players work together as members of the Bergson family, combating monsters, corruption that threatens your livelihood and homeland. Sessions are supposed to take 45 minutes. You unlock abilities, various things like that. So it's supposed to have like a roguelike, you play a number of sessions or stuff like that. And the campaign's coming soon. Honestly speaking, like, I do see that we're getting some of these kind of like roguelike games coming to board games, because honestly speaking, yeah, roguelikes work pretty well for board games, it turns out. When you can either have a single session or you can have sessions that have like that kind of like progression kind of stuff for a story. That works pretty well in a lot of board games. So I'm not surprised we're seeing another roguelike to board game.
That actually does make sense, yeah. Because like,
yeah. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. We're getting pretty far into the session and getting to, so we of our show here. So
I mean, we got a long docket, and
I want to finish up.
Tangents, so.
Yeah, I want to finish up some of the stuff here. So Yu-Gi-Oh! There are 2 things that I've seen. I want to shout out here because apparently we're knowing some things about this. First off, this is an interesting one. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been out for 25 years. I didn't know that. Damn it. But apparently, with a short animation, Konami has opened up its own animation studio for it. So, I mean, that might be that for anime projects and stuff like that are in the future related to Yu-Gi-Oh! We might see that it's going to be individual. That Konami studio is going to be abroad, which is kind of strange. I know Konami's been publishing this up, but they've created Konami Animation. Like, Konami, we always think about the terrible things they do related to video games, but they're actually behind Yu-Gi-Oh! Too.
Yeah, what's interesting, I'm wondering if they'll handle their own dubs.
That'll be interesting, too.
Or if they'll still hand those over to 4Kids.
There's a lot about this question about making their own studio that I'm like, it's interesting because this is one of those things about Konami that I don't hear a lot about because, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh has been successful still, and it still does go strong, you know, on a collectible card game, a CCG kind of front. So sort of like, I always think of Yu-Gi-Oh as Yu-Gi-Oh, but it is under Konami. And then the other thing, which was another Dicebreakers article, which is interesting, is, and I'm going to admit, this is the one point in time where I hear about this, I'm like, oh god, this is a good use of it kind of thing. They're going to have a virtual reality video game. That's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. One of the things that I think, like, if you think about my interest,
this is cool.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh is a card game. It's also been a video game. It started as a manga. I'm going to tell you. It started as a manga, went to anime, actually made the card game.
Literally was a manga about something completely different, and then it turned into a card game-based thing, because the card game in it got so popular, because of their card game arc that was the second arc.
Yeah.
That's why the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Makes no sense if you actually know the rules of the card game.
Yeah. Because more based on the manga. Yeah. And the card game didn't really exist the same way. So,
because like the second season onwards, they actually start using rules for the card game they made.
I'm going to say,
off of this.
Some of the stuff they did was so insane in the anime, but they did some really cool things, like having like a disc thing on your arm to play the card game. I'm sorry if they're gonna give me shit like that in virtual reality.
That was the second season.
I know, but I wanted shit like that for my card games. I played Magic. I wanted to play Magic with a weird card game thing on my shoulder with virtual reality. You know what the virtual reality is like? I can fucking have like a thing on my shoulder and throw out monsters and stuff like that. If they do stuff like that, that would be really cool. And I'm like, fuck you. Virtual reality for this. Oh my God.
Careful you don't overload the mechanism by attacking too hard to actually deal damage to the person holding it.
I'm sorry. This is the kind of thing that, like, a virtual reality for fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Is sort of like, oh my god. It's like, this is the kind of things that made me, like, be like, ah, oh, that's so cool in the card game. And I'm like, you know, and, you know, as much as I avoided actually playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, it still was so neat and made me, like, at least interested to create. I was already deep into Magic, and I'm like, I can't do another card game, you know.
I stopped playing when 5Ds started to, like, come out, because it just started to get ridiculous.
Yeah.
And nowadays, as far as I know, because it's basically like, if you have a good deck, you win in one turn. Which doesn't sound like
yeah. So, yeah, a virtual reality thing to bring dueling to, like, what feels like life. Yeah, you know, give someone a fucking duel disc, you know. This is the kind of thing that, you know, really makes...
No, it's just because the way VR works, you can sometimes be like, there's some that are like, you know, you have the hand, so it's probably have to have the dual disc to it, so you can actually play.
Give me a fucking, like, you know, actual, like, you know, dual disc thing or something,
like,
you know.
Probably... Because, like, there are some that, like, you hold the things, and so you probably will, like, put it out, and it'll probably be, like, a sensor will make it so it's, like, shortly behind the thing. So
I could play my card and, like, you know, oh, man, this is so cool. So cool. I don't even play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm like, I really would just, like, think that's so cool. You know, this is what we need for virtual reality. Thank you. Someone's doing something cool. Anyway.
Yep. Man,
there you go.
If I my own apartment, I might actually have space to set up a virtual reality thing, and then I'll buy virtual reality stuff. If I have money at that point. Anyway.
Yes.
Apartments in California are ridiculously priced.
They are.
That's a different topic entirely.
Look, you know, I understand because I've talked to people about the various housing markets in certain areas, and you know, it's sort of like I'm kind of at that cusp where things get cheap because I'm far enough away from Philadelphia. You go any close to Philadelphia, it's not LA prices, but it starts going up there. It's again, Philadelphia is relatively cheap for a city in comparison to like LA and New York.
Oh,
but you talk about those cities.
I'm not even in LA. Yeah. It's worse in LA, and it's already horrible.
Mm-hmm. So
anyway,
here's another one more thing related to Dice Breakers I saw is another Kickstarter project, and I'm gonna throw out the weight page and then the Dice Breakers article based upon it. The article is here. So a writer, so this is like a weird pedigree of people are making a game that's supposed to be like Game of Thrones meet Downton Abbey, they describe it as. Which is a very interesting combination of things, to say the least. I'm like, okay, you piqued my interest in something that's a weird collection of things. What do you got for me? So, it's Our Brilliant Ruin. You wind your path through dance halls, smoking lounge, rubbing elbows with filthy rich, doomed souls, desperately trying to drown reality from the apocalypse of wine, dance, and excess. So it's like an apocalyptic setting. I'm guessing kind of fantasy. So it's faced with the impending death of society at the hands of a supernatural threats that can't exposed. You know, you're joining an endless party. And outside the malice and places, waves of darkness kind of do it. So that's a very interesting kind of concept of like, you know, you've got these kind of like parties going on, social aspects of it, while Doom is on the outside and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We have someone that wrote for World of Darkness, someone that wrote for more Vampire the Masquerade, Doom RPG, and Pam Punzalan, who worked through Journey of the Radiant Citadel. So it's got like a good pedigree of people that have worked on a lot of big name stuff, working together for this one. They have plans for other stuff related to their world, but the first thing here is the tabletop game. So if it's successful, I'm sure we'll see more. They want to basically expand the media for this, which isn't a bad idea, to expand the media based on a world. And if it's successful, cool. All right, there we go.
Yeah, no, it seems pretty cool. It's like it's like post-apocalyptic kind of. It's like the world is actively ending, and this is how people are coping. It seems like.
Yeah. Okay, I got 4 more things today. 3 things from Modiphius and a Humble Bundle, and we're finished up. And I'm not going to have a deeper discussion because we're nearly 2 hours in. We're probably going to be around 2 hours. We'll have to hit on like our...
We need to have a shorter day, so we need to have a shorter day so we can actually get a deeper discussion in. We haven't had that in like 3 weeks.
It's just been a lot of long, busy days, and this like double week is just not helping us. We got the Wanderer's Guidebook for the Fallout role-playing game, where you can make, well, the wandering character, new origins of that you can play as, some pre-built locations, new perks, more equipment, more vehicles, more foes. It's another book that's giving us a lot of information here. It's adding some interesting things like Brotherhood, Outcast, Children of Adam, Night Kid, robots as origins for your characters. It's basically... It's... The last book we had was tying us to settlements. This is going to be like, you know, so rather than like... That's more Fallout 4, being like, you know, you're building a settlement, you're related to it, you're exploring the world from it. This is more to your, like... Fallout 3 Lone Wanderer character, you know, where you're just going out and exploring the world and not really tied down to one place. So I'm liking that we're getting multiple directions for your Fallout games. It's good.
Yeah.
It's not a shout out for that. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is we are getting another Fallout miniature game from Modiphius. Just to go on top of that, they already had Wasteland Warfare, but they're getting a new miniatures game, Factions. I do not know what the difference is right now. Let's see here. It's supposed to be faster-paced action, I think. So I guess it's supposed to be less tactical than Wasteland Warfare and much more of a fast-paced kind of, like, battle. Like, Wasteland Warfare, I'm assuming... If you're playing that, you're going in for, like, big battles, you know, with, you know, organized play. Very much so, like, a tactical miniatures game kind of thing. This is supposed to be, you know, a little bit more quick and dirty kind of miniatures games. With simple mechanics and stuff like that. So I do like how they're coming out with, I guess, a much more like, you can go for your traditional, if you really like war games kind of things, like Wasteland Warfare, with, bigger games, but we're also giving you this, like, quick and dirty kind of game if you want something simpler and more enjoyable. So, hey. Oh, I see that there. I was like, why are you raising your hand?
I was just like, man, that sun glare is terrible.
Perfect time of day for it.
I'm gonna do one in the middle, because you never look at Mongoose. They just did something yesterday.
Ooh. We'll give that one. Mongoose. Ooh.
Yeah, Traveler. I really only pay attention to their Travelers. So that's all. But yeah, they did a Traveler companion update 2024. Basically, this is just a remake of their old Traveler companion. Literally, I actually got it and I looked through it. I could, like, at least through a skim, I could barely tell what was different between the two. I actually had the two side by side, and there's basically just some formatting, some wording changes, some clarifications. Pretty much it from their old Traveler's Companion. Basically, it's just expanded rules outside of the core rulebook that you can use, is the idea.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
At least we're getting an update.
To fit. Yep. Yeah, they've been going through and updating their core stuff, just because it's all like, their original Traveler 2E was pretty terrible. It just didn't. It was not super clear, and there's a lot of clarification needed. I still think they could have done a better job, but at least with their core rulebook, but all their expansions so far have clarified things much better.
So. We are getting something from Star Trek Discovery for the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game. The first season of Star Trek Discovery had a Federation Klingon war that took place during it, in a weird storyline that, honestly speaking, is a mixed bag, but not a terrible concept of it. But what we got is the Star Trek Adventures Klingon Federation War Tactical Campaign. It's a state of the galaxy before and during the war that went from 2256 to 2257. Wartime rules for Starfleet systems, new systems for scars and kind of battle. So, again, I think this is interesting because we haven't really seen a lot of information on war, but this is the first war that the Federation has been involved with over the time. In more recent history, of course, you had the Dominion War, which kind of has been hinted at in here and there, but including, a bunch of stuff like some new playable species, some information on battles and kind of wartime kind of stuff like that, might mean if you actually want to use things like do stuff for the Dominion War, you can adapt stuff for this. Or some of the other kind of battles that have taken place historically over it. Like Enterprise, post-Enterprise, there was the Romulan War against the, Earth, So, like, that's talked about. You could do that kind of thing for, like, wartime stuff. I think it's an interesting idea because it is something that has happened historically. It's not the normal adventures you have in Star Trek Adventures, but because this kind of thing can occur and has occurred, it's not terrible to have information on how to adapt it to your Star Trek Adventures campaigns, if you want to use these settings.
Yeah, the Star Trek Federation Klingon War.
This is the one that took place at the beginning of Discovery.
Yeah. Anyway, point though, the thing I was going to say though was the thing I was going to say though was that it is nice because technically the Federation is also a military.
Starfleet's military.
It's exploration, maybe exploration, science, that kind of stuff, but it's also military.
Yeah, it's exploration, science, diplomacy, and traditionally the Starfleet is policing, basically. Is if you need like a force to do something more militaristically, hey, there you go.
Yeah. Space police.
I mean, that's why you have very militaristic way that they do a lot of things. Granted, it's a lot more looser than your average military because it is a lot more than just a military in Starfleet. But certainly, when the need arises for it, they are ready. And most of the time they are. So, it's neat. It's cool. I think, again, like, I'm not a fan of the first season of Discovery. I'm going to tell you that there. But I think concepts from it I thought were always really neat. I think they just presented it in a way that was very kind of weird and did stuff very uniquely. And as like Joe says, when they get to season 3, they kind of fix things. But them doing more stuff from like more modern Trek isn't a bad thing, and I think that's good too. So, you know. Anyway, one last thing today. There's a Humble Bundle to shout out. Hey, a Cyberpunk Red one. So if you are, you know, a fan of Cyberpunk the video game or the old Cyberpunk stuff, this might be an opportunity to pick up Cyberpunk Red's core book and a lot of other books along with it. You know, for $18 or anything above, you can get 23 PDFs of a bunch of books for Cyberpunk. So yeah. I think that's it.
I don't remember.
They've had some Cyberpunk bundles in the past. I think there's like, it's sort of like we get usually a couple times a year. You get like a Pathfinder.
I feel like I bought one like within the past like month, and I'm just wondering. And it's probably this one.
You could have gotten this one earlier on, like because this was like last week. Momo linked it, and it could have been out for like.
Oh yeah, I think that must have been when I did it. Is when
yeah. Since it's got about a little less than 14 days left, I can see that it's been out for a while.
Yep. Anyway.
Alright, cool. We want to talk about our week in gaming for 2 weeks.
I did have a continuation of a game, of my friend's game that he's making.
Why don't you tell us about that, and then we'll talk about Joe's game, and we'll talk about Crimson Queen and the game that I've been in for, you know, with Momo.
So that was last Friday, not yesterday, but a week yesterday. So
yeah,
we it was a lot more of the same day. My character nearly died because of a kind of bad mechanic.
Bad mechanics.
So basically, there's this thing where I'm playing basically a sorcerer. I'm playing a. So the way he does his classes, you can be like magic, combat, or utility. Those are like basically 4 classes.
Okay.
He has. I picked magic combat, but when you pick magic, you have to pick a subtype. So I picked sorcerer, which is basically you use the mana from yourself.
Okay.
But to use mana, it's like kind of dangerous, is the idea. But there is this mechanic where the more you use, the more dangerous it is. And you determine whether or not, like, how dangerous it is by your roll. And if you roll, you have to, like, the mana, like, continues to flow out of you, and you can, and then you have to, like, roll again to stop it. And I basically just rolled, like, 4, 2, 4, you know? And nearly killed my character. And we talked about the rules a little bit afterwards, and we were like, okay, so there should probably be a way to do it safely. So now he added a meditate mechanic where instead of doing it like as an action, basically, you can spend like a minute to do it more safely, to draw the mana more safely. So that's what we talk after talking about it, because you draw the mana out of yourself, and then you can hold on to it and use it later. So it's not like an inherent. So the thing is, though, is that like. So the idea is that, like, you can... But that's what I was talking about. It's like, well, you know, if you have to... You know, if you're doing a lot of stuff and you have to keep using it, you know, because, like, the idea is that, like, if you can use it, if you can, like, if you have, like, a day or two to, like, rest in between, you can, in theory, like, build it up without trouble. But if you have to... like, do one day, then the next day, then the next day, you don't have time to recover it without risking yourself.
Okay.
And then, so that's, but yeah, basically, after you take a long rest, or you just basically sleep, you know, whatever, I don't know, you know, after a day, it resets back to the initial check. So it's like, the more you use it, the more dangerous it is.
Gotcha. Interesting.
But anyway, the plot, though, was, so there's a whole prophecy thing. Found out something was going to happen potentially soon, and that some guy was plotting something. And we were like, okay, how are we going to handle this? And we're like, okay, he's probably going to do something in the next few days. So we need to figure this out. And then we walk up, and then there's a building on fire, and we're like, oh wait, he's already struck. So it was kind of this thing where it was planned that way by the GM, but we were not expecting it as quick as
it's like, well, I guess we're a bit late.
yeah. So, but yeah, so, and then we found out that apparently it wasn't that guy, it was a different person, so we were kind of right. There's just a lot going on. It's a game that's going to take place over like 4 days. Because basically, the idea is that there's a prophecy that that someone came to the town with a prophecy that the town will be destroyed in 4 days' time.
Interesting.
Yep.
Neat. Well, we did have Yosef's game.
Yes, yesterday.
We did. Last Sunday. Where... What's the best way to describe what we did?
We got plot railed into... No, I'm just kidding.
We did. We did get.
We did, but it was fine. I think you did it well. I think you could have done it a little better, but I think it was fine.
It wasn't a bad plot rail. Definitely, I've had worse plot rails.
100%.
Yeah, so that wasn't too bad. We're in Sigil now. Yeah.
Yeah. He set us up with an unwinnable fight, and a way out of that fight with an NPC. And there's kind of this thing where it's all like, we realize it's like, we are all dying to this thing. This can't be what we're supposed to do, is beat this. And then we realize, okay, that's not what we were supposed to do. So, I mean, it was a rail, but it was a well done rail to where it was all like, we needed to... It was basically like a pre-planned Deus Ex Machina. Which is fine. I actually prefer a pre-planned Deus Ex Machina, I can't say that today, than a impromptu.
Yeah. I can agree on that one. So, yep, that was... that. It was fine.
Yeah. And then we landed in Sigil, and in some weird dungeon in Sigil, and we're trying to get out of this dungeon.
Yeah, we're in basically a morgue in Sigil, and we're trying to escape the morgue.
Yeah.
And the people probably aren't too happy that we're alive and there, you know?
Yeah, it's a group of people who, it's not just a morgue, it's a morgue where people worship the concept of death, basically. And they don't like living people there. So
yeah, so we
got teleported there through a weird, through a magical wish.
Yep. So, yeah. We had 2 weeks of the Crimson Queen, which...
Did.
The previous week, you people are now doing missions to help fight the plague. And the first one, you know, your first one was you went and were like, well, there's some were-rats that may or may not be involved with things, and they really aren't involved, but people think they are, and they've basically pissed them off, and they might be like going to try to like create a war against the surface world because of that, and you took care of the problem.
I mean, we were
violently.
Our idea was let's do diplomacy, and they said no.
I mean, you did just roll very. You didn't roll well enough. Diplomacy.
All of our diplomacy checks in a relatively tense situation that probably had high checks.
Again, like the thing is, every time I didn't really necessarily raise the difficulty, but I'm like, look. They are very aggressive, so like I basically put 2 different DCs, and the Intimidate one was there, but it was a higher DC than Diplomacy, and you rolled better on the Intimidate, but not much more. I think that was the problem. Yeah. So it just ended up being like, well, they're not very happy with you being here.
Yeah, I feel like you did give us like 6 tries to do something, and we failed our rolls every time.
Again, like, I also was, like, kind of letting you, like, chat it out, but I was kind of like, you didn't... The way that they wanted things, you didn't really give them...
The dice were not in our favor. We didn't have a lot extra to offer.
Yeah.
And they were not already pretty hostile, so...
Yeah. So, it was fine.
Yep.
You beat a lot of them up. A bunch of them died. And then you...
Unleashed an Othiyog on them.
Yeah, you unleashed an Othiyog on them. And then the next week, you resolved that. You checked out a plague ship. You helped out some Pharasmites. And then you skillfully managed to basically stop the fake cure from being sold by charming a guy and convincing him to give you the cure, and then, you know, actually testing it.
That as evidence.
And then, like, going to, like, you know, testing that with some of the guards. It's like, hey, someone's selling this? Let's test it out. Oh, hey, it doesn't work. Okay. You like, having an extra person, like, cast cure on the person. It's like, you can cure them. Okay. Hey, look, can we take care of this? It's like, yes, that's a problem. And so you got, like, you know, the authorities to arrest a bunch of people.
Yeah. Just on the outside and watched, and then went in afterwards and picked some stuff up that the guards missed.
They just didn't want that stuff. It's like they're not there to loot stuff. They're like, we're just gonna sneak in here.
Well, they captured the people, and they didn't actually go and find. Like you said, we found her secret laboratory, and the guards didn't.
Yeah, because they weren't really like looking deep for it. They were looking to like arrest people, and it looked like she wasn't there. Made them get away.
Honestly, it makes sense. They're probably overworked right now with like all of the plague stuff going on, and the riot's probably still a threat.
Yeah.
They just wanted to arrest the people and shut down the operation. That was their goal.
I had 2 weeks of Momo's interesting game. The other week, we fought a shadow lady that was made of evil birds, and ended up, when we were like in like a dream dimension or something. It's kind of weird. We got back home. We found out that the person who was pretending to have not inviting us actually did invite us, because he knew something weird was going on with like a dream realm and wanted to trick us here because he didn't think we'd just show up, and we thought he basically was like, you would think me crazy if I told you the actual truth. I've having dreams about a dream realm. And we're like, we probably would have. You did lure us here. We did end up in a dream realm. So we learned more about that stuff, and we're basically trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. And also, there's apparently like an evil cult related to it or something that we may or may not have to fight. So that's kind of where we're at. I don't really know the overall plot yet. We're working on that.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. I enjoy playing like an ancient dryad that, like, in their like, I don't know, like 800th year got convinced by someone to go find religion. So I like actually went and found religion. So now I'm like, I'm the old lady of the group, and I'm like, yeah, I still don't understand your world. I never visited. I never left the forest. You know, until they convinced me to leave. It's a fun juxtaposition of being like the ancient fae, you know, and funny. Anyway, did you do anything else? I don't think I did.
Literally nothing else.
Kept it short and sweet. I did a bunch of tabletop videos. They're going up slowly but surely because I forgot about the World of Darkness one and was having some trouble getting it uploaded even today. So it'll be up tomorrow. That's 2 weeks ago. Like not today, but last Saturday's video from World of Darkness will be up tomorrow because I'm finally probably gonna fix it tonight. Anyway.
1 week ago for his last week's.
I can't believe I missed it. Like, I forgot that I didn't even, like... I'd done stuff to set up for it, and I just didn't, like, edit it, and then I forgot that I didn't upload it, and then, like, it was, like, in the middle of the week, and I'm like, wait a second. Wow. That happened in my brain. Alright, everybody. I'm gonna just get going. It was a nice episode. We had a lot of topics. We handled them all. Thank you for joining me, Worm. Do you want to give a shout-out to some stuff?
Yeah, I'm Diamondwyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/Diamondwyrm, as Diamondwyrm on Twitter. I usually post on Twitter whether or not I'm going live, or whether. And I'll be streaming tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. PST, thereabouts. I've actually been starting a little.
I'll be back Monday for stuff. If you want to see tabletop stuff, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, normal schedule, Crimson Queen. Wednesdays at around 9 p.m. EST this show, every Saturdays at 6 p.m. And the stuff for the week is doing some more the browser games. We'll finish the tabletop schedule. And I'm going to try to finish up the Bloodstained randomizer this week, because I actually found out about a randomizer I particularly want to try out. Apparently, last year in late December, someone came up with a Parasite Eve 2 randomizer. Which is really
fun.
cool. I know. I love that game. I love playing that game. And this is like, oh my god, someone came up with a randomizer from it. I have no idea what the hell that means. I'm curious and interested, and you got me sold on it. So I think after I finish Bloodstained, I'll actually try to get that working and try it out. So, anyway. Alright, everybody. Later on. Bye-bye.
Bye.